Hey everyone, it's Quickie Baby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I'm playing on my Plays for Free account, i.e. the account which I don't spend a penny a cent anything on. All I invest is my time and hopefully my knowledge of what I've learned from my first account to see truly if we can play World of Tanks for free, or at least to what standard we can play World of Tanks for free. Alright, so today I'm playing in the Tier 4 Italian medium tank, the P2640. And I'm making my way up the Italian medium tank line because I really feel that there are some absolute crackers along the way. Tier 4 is what we're looking at right now, and I'm going to be following it up with some gameplay in the Tier 5 as well to show you what that vehicle is all about. So, Tier 4 Italian medium tank, what does it do? It does this. DURP, 148 damage. I'm loading high explosive rounds, and I've rejiggered them around so they're on my 1 key right now. And so this tiny little gun has 70 millimeters of penetration on its high explosive rounds. And that just allows it to be completely devastating. 175 damage and 70 millimeters of penetration, and even if you fail to penetrate, you're still going to splash on the target a little bit. It's truly monstrous. This thing also has a rather nice rate of fire of 14 rounds a minute. So even when you don't have the best equipment on the tank, as you can see I'm using binoculars and a camo net. I'm not even sure if I had vents or a gun rammer on this vehicle at the time. Even if you probably don't have the best crew, or you're using some kind of premium consumable, or you've got brothers in arms because you've invested loads of awesome tankers down the line before you've even got started. The vehicle is monstrous, absolutely devastating, especially in a good matchup like this. Now, 2,500 damage per minute. That is what you're packing if you penetrate these high explosive rounds. And as you can see so far, we haven't really struggled with 70 millimeters of penetration. It's just so bizarre because there are many vehicles that, when they're stock, get kind of like about 50 millimeters of penetration around about the Tier 4 and even sometimes the Tier 5 mark, as I found with the Polish Tier 5 medium tank recently on this account. And oh, spoilers, it was one of the worst experiences of my World of Tanks life. Truly, absolutely outrageous. But there you can see when the high explosive rounds don't do so well. And I'm actually being a little bit of a gold noob here. How many rounds of premium am I going to fire? Am I going to fire more than one? And it looks like I fire one and then I go back to the HE rounds. And maybe I'm going to try and shoot at the sides of the AMX where it's going to be weaker and be able to finish it off. So I did load a heat round there against the duck, but looks like one is all we need. Now the heat rounds on this vehicle, your damage drops down from 170 to 110. But your penetration goes up to 130, so it can be very efficient. And look at that, we loop a shell over into the M2. Unfortunately, we don't hit the thin part of the armor, so we fail to penetrate. But oh, goodbye, Mr. Grunt. Well, actually, to be honest, we just lost a huge amount of hit points to that. What's a Grunt? Isn't Grunt basically a British M3 Lee? That's disgraceful. How did I just lose over 300 hit points to a British Lee? That's just awful. Alright, well anyway, forget about that for now, because we're going to try and loop a shell over into the cruiser turret. We enter it. We also deal 2 crits to the tank, and the second shell goes right over the lip as well, picking up our 3rd kill of the game, although now down to 21 hit points. If we could even a swift breeze could be able to finish off our vehicle right now. Alright, so the Grunt at the back. I'm going to try and blind fire where the Grunt was last spotted, but the M2 medium tank comes around the corner. We're not going to worry about the M2 medium tank right now because I really want to finish off that Grunt. And there he is! Oh, time for revenge, Mr. Grunt. Yeah, there you go. Good stuff. And you can just see how ludicrous the rate of fire is on this tank. It's got alpha, it's got high penetration, it's got a good rate of fire. Everything else about the vehicle is okay. It's very generic. It's not the fastest tank. It doesn't have the worst armor with 50 millimeters at the front, which is enough to bounce a Panzer 1C, for example, unlike quite a few Tier 4 vehicles can. It has 350 hit points, fairly standard, and the view range is at 330, which means that even though I've invested one of the female tankers that I got from the Christmas event, if you're wondering how I have female crew members on this vehicle, got a lot of them at Christmas, and I invested the time on my free-to-play account. I actually managed to get to Festive Atmosphere level 10 purely free-to-play. I was quite surprised that it wasn't easy. I definitely played a few hundred games, but I was quite surprised that I didn't have to spend money this year to be able to get to that Festive Atmosphere level. And yeah, just having those female tankers at these low tiers on these Italian vehicles just helped tremendously. One of the things that I'm starting to seriously realize at low tier is just how important view range is. Our poor Toldy is probably realizing how important reactions are as we managed to clutch shot him and take him out. And now turn our attention to the M2 medium, thinking he's going forwards. No, he sits still, and this gun! I mean, look, A lot of you might be thinking, well, is this just the one game that you had in this vehicle that was absolutely incredible? No, I've got quite a few games of top guns in this tank, and I don't even need to play it that much to be able to venture forth towards the tier 5. Unfortunately, high explosive rounds unable to go through the wall there. We tried to loop it over into the Covenanter's turret. Are we going to be able to pick up our 7th? There you go. Easy stuff. And you know what? I'm even going to turn the tank around to look pretty on Overlord. Ah! Flawless victory, right? So next up, we're playing its bigger brother, the P43. So this is the tier 5 Italian medium tank. And this was the first ever game I played in this vehicle on this account. And the tank is completely stock. I've got the stock gun, the tracks, the engine, and all I did was move my crew from the previous vehicle up using credits, so I believe they're probably sitting around about the 80 or the 90% mark. Now immediately you'll notice that without the top turret and having about an 80 or a 90% crew in World of Tanks, that dynamic view range is absolutely awful, right? Yeah, that's one of the biggest things that I've noticed at low tiers is just how much of a difference view range makes. And having a very experienced account, and I can afford to have 100% crews on my main account and use premium consumables, and I've either got coated optics or binoculars, and I've got vents on all of these tanks, and having that premium consumable, as I mentioned, just boosts your view range up to the point where you can frankly just outspot your opponents. And it's been a real eye-opener about just how important crew skills are in World of Tanks. Well, at least getting to that 100% right from the get-go is important. And if you can manage to purchase crews during discounts, then that is a great opportunity. And having that 100% crew is just obviously not possible for a free-to-play account, so you have to make do with 75% crews. But at least moving them up from tank to tank, I'm definitely noticing that it's better at the moment for me to just sell and move on. Alright, so the P43, this is a bit of a weird vehicle because it doesn't really do anything special in my opinion compared to the previous tank. Having that high explosive gun, the same one that I'm using now at tier 4, feels absolutely amazing because quite often you get into better matchups. However, when you get up to tier 5, the armor piercing guns on this vehicle are just really not that much better in my opinion than the high explosive gun. So I'm probably going to end up using this stock gun on this tank even after I upgrade the turret and unlock the top gun. It's just that darn powerful that it not only can it work very well at tier 4, it can work tremendously well at tier 5. Alright, so the Lago appears in front of us, sitting still, and that's going to be the last thing the Lago ever does, because we're going to be able to finish him off pretty much in 2 shots here if this one goes in. Look at that. That is a tier 5, no sorry, that's the tier 4 Swedish medium tank, and he is just out of there. This thing is completely voracious, even stock. Now, one of the reasons why I wanted to feature these 2 games today is because I wanted to highlight that there are quite a few vehicles in the game that maybe you haven't gone up the Italian line, and you could get to these 2 tanks pretty much within a couple of hours of gameplay, even without a premium account, and just have a little bit of fun with them. And that's one of my favorite things about playing this free-to-play account, is it's made me go back and appreciate the lower tier a little bit more. It's definitely not made me appreciate the challenge. I don't really enjoy this kind of gameplay. I like it when the enemies fight back. I don't really just want to play some kind of farming simulator where it feels like the enemies are not very experienced or possibly even bots. That's why if you've ever watched my streams, and a lot of people question, why is it always high tier gameplay on your channel? That's because the challenge is up there. The more experienced players are up towards the tier 7, 8, 9 or 10 mark. And I feel that I'm going to get the competition there, and you want to have epic victories. And whether you can consider something where you're just farming like this an epic victory, well, I'm not so sure. Although for my first game, right now, I wasn't really thinking about having an epic victory. I was just thinking about winning and actually getting a double, because my win ratio on this count is still sitting around about the 56% mark, but that's purely because I've been struggling with some of the stock tanks, if I'm honest, and not having female crew members in some of my tanks. Now I feel like I'm getting to a position where a lot of my tanks are not stock. I'm sitting around about the tier 5 and the tier 6 mark, and I actually get to sit down and spend some time with fully upgraded vehicles, which makes a tremendous difference to your win ratio. Alright, so the Panzer 4D, I really can't believe that I can go through the front of that tank just so easily, even with 70mm of pen. The second one goes in as well, and we're up to 300 damage within a couple of seconds. It really makes me question why vehicles have got so few hit points at low tiers. Why should tanks die in 1 or 2 shots at low tiers? When you're thinking about high tier gameplay, if you're in a tier 10 medium tank, for example, and there's an object 140 on the enemy team, he's going to have to shoot you about 6 or 7 times to be able to kill you, and that's if he penetrates you. It's going to take him at least almost a minute of continuous fire, or maybe more, about 30 or 40 seconds if you're taking into account fully pimped out damage per minute on those tanks to be able to shut you down. At low tiers, it just seems so unforgiving. It feels as if you can just kill your opponents instantly, especially with tanks like this, but even with the T-28. That thing's packing, if it's got the top gun, I believe 1600 or 1800 DPM. And as soon as you jump up to the T-34, you're packing like 2200 DPM, even though the vehicle's only got 350 hit points. It's pretty much ludicrous how quickly you can kill vehicles. Now, I'm not sure if that's the kind of gameplay that a lot of you would enjoy. A lot of people always ask, well, have you ever played War Thunder before? And yeah, I played War Thunder. I was actually in the closed beta of that, even before I think there was an NDA on the game. I even featured some of it on this YouTube channel at one point. And it was lots of fun. Absolutely fantastic title. But one thing that I really didn't enjoy about the game was that feel of just the one-shot kill. Sure, it was fun. It was so, you were living on the edge and you always felt like you had an opportunity to be able to take out the enemy vehicle, irrelevant of how much damage you had. But one thing that I really didn't like about it in the end is that sometimes I was going on, 10 kill streaks, 15 kill streaks, just aiming at the point, and obviously this is several years ago, at weak points on the enemy vehicles like driver's hatches and so on and so forth. You could manage to go through them with an armor piercing round, it would explode on the inside, and pretty much you could learn where to shoot different vehicles. Now from a simulation point of view, that was fantastic. But from a gameplay point of view, I felt like it was very lacking, and I liked the duels, the longer-winded duels that you had in a game like World of Tanks, and that kind of slight arcadey feel, I think I preferred it. Now why I'm mentioning that is because I feel that low tiers is kind of the same. It's just a bit brutal that you can manage to evaporate the hit points so darn quickly. And it allows an experienced player who knows what they're doing, or alternatively a vehicle who has all of the advantages, for example on a premium account of view range and camera rating and crew skills, unlike what I had here, to be able to just simply kill opponents before they even have a chance to fight back. But scaling in video games that have either tiers or levels is always something that's absolutely horrific. If any of you have played World of Warcraft, you'll know that top tiers, or should we say levels, just completely obliterate anyone who hasn't reached the level cap yet. But the reason why I'm mentioning this is that while at least you've got a chance to fight back at low tiers, the speed at which you can kill your opponents almost feels as if it doesn't give the new players a chance. But there's one thing I truly love about low tiers, and that is just the stupid things that happen like this. Here I am again in my P2640. I've already secured 6 kills this game, but I don't even really care about that right now because this 14 TP, what is he doing to this Marder? He's not killing him. Has he run out of ammunition, or is he just playing with his food right now? Well, I loop one shell over, and we're going to loop another shell over. Oh! Well, we nearly TK'd the Marder, but I don't know whether I should feel guilty right there. This is why sometimes playing around at low tiers, I fully understand why a lot of you absolutely love it there and you want to see more content of the low tiers on this channel. It's just tricky for me to be able to find moments like this without purely feeling that I'm kind of farming half of the enemy team, at least when I get my tanks more or less upgraded. And so the Italian micro DURPs, absolutely vicious little tanks. This was a high caliber in our very first game, stock in the P43, 2,300 damage and 7 kills, and with or without a premium account, a decent profit. And so if you're sitting there right now looking for some underrated and just purely dominant tanks to go for, I do thoroughly recommend these mid-tier Italian beasts. And if you do end up trying them out and then going up the line, well, at least in my opinion, the tier 6, 8, 9 and 10 are also fantastic vehicles, although for different reasons. And so that's it for today, ladies and gents. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, but if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And if you're watching it as it's released on Sunday, it's time for another World of Tanks Tech Tree Showcase on twitch.tv/QuickieBaby. And this week, 744 of you have voted, and the winner is the Tier 10 German sneaky tank destroyer, the Griller 15. So come along right now as I showcase the entirety of this stealthy tech tree, starting at Tier 1 and working my way up to Tier 10 so you can see if it's a line that's possibly interesting for you, or alternatively you already have the tanks, maybe pick up a few tips and tricks along the way. So I'm really looking forward to seeing as many of you as possible right now on twitch.tv/QuickieBaby. And as always, thank you so much.